I'm Catherine Ross. I'm here live from the floor of the NYC with our very own birthday boy, Jim Cramer. Jim, happy birthday!
Thank you very much. Thank you. Much appreciated. 10 years ago, Apple was at 2780, and now it's over 300. That's a reminder that in a 10-year period, a lot of good things could happen. I know it's the stock of the day, and I hope it and I have another good 10 years. If not longer.
Definitely longer, we hope.
Love that.
So, Jim, I want to ask, what could the market give you for your birthday? What's the best birthday gift you could get?
You know what's interesting? We've had two problems. We've had the coronavirus, and we've had Boeing. The good people of Boeing, whom I know many, I think are finally going to catch a break soon. And the reason they're going to catch a break is that now they have the safest plane, and the plane looks remarkably like the old 737 with some additional safety features. That doesn't mean Boeing is out of the woods no matter how much it owes, but I think that we're going to be able to take that one off the table soon. And if they can figure out how to make it so that people want to fly it, in my talks with the airlines, what I keep hearing is, you know what, it's just like the 737 that we're all used to now. And the pilots are more trained on this one particular aspect. It's no longer a disadvantage. You won't feel good if the pilots don't do the simulator. So that's going to be something I want to know. I want a list of the companies that are not doing the simulator because it's going to be optional. Boeing's going to insist that you do it, but obviously their customers are their customers. I want my pilots trained on it, and I want it to be the safest plane ever, and I think they're going to get both their wishes. They deserve it. I probably know more people at the highest level of Boeing than any other company. And, you know, Apple, Disney, Boeing, these are extraordinary companies. And Boeing's an extraordinary company. Please don't write them off.
Well, I think that we're about to approach a month with our new CEO at Boeing. So what are your thoughts on the executive?
All I hear over and over again, Calhoun is a uniter. I think that the idea... I feel this is something that I would tell you under Calhoun. I'm beginning to get the sense those terrible emails that we read, those were outliers, and that's not Boeing. I know that it looked like it was Boeing, and I think people could say, oh, Jim, you're being sentimental, or you've always loved Boeing because your father cheered when he saw them in World War II. But I come back and say, maybe the Boeing of this Boeing with Calhoun is the Boeing of McNerney. And you're also getting to hear that there are other people around him. The changes he's made are very, very good. My hope is that he keeps Greg Smith, the CFO, who has been faithful to the tradition of Boeing all along.
And I think that what you just said kind of speaks to what you and I have had conversations about off camera, which is that there could be a fish rots at the head mentality previously at Boeing, but under Calhoun, who's constantly said, you know, that won't fly with me,
right.
It could change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the two reservations in Calhoun is one, not an engineer. People want an engineer. I get that. But the other is that he was on the board, and so therefore he knew things were going to occur. But I would point out a stock that we just bought for Action Alerts. Larry Culp was on the board of GE, and a year later no one thinks, oh, you know what, he's part of the cronyism. So let's give Calhoun that, and let's lay off him. I think he's doing a good job.
So besides for Boeing, what else do you look for in this market today?
We're on the eve of the election. And this is a very important election because we all go back to New Hampshire 4 years ago. What we didn't realize was that Bernie Sanders had a grassroots organization, and it's much better than we thought. And it weakened the Clinton candidacy dramatically because the Sanders contingent didn't just switch over to Hillary in the general. So it's almost like the stronger that you see Sanders, the more likely that others won't rally to him if he gets it. I think Sanders could win by a landslide, and if he does, then I think people are going to start saying that Trump has got it. But what I have a piece this morning on Real Money is that the Chinese, everyone says they play the long game, they made a major, still more miscalculations, not just with Corona. When I read, there's very little about what Sanders says about foreign policy, but when I read what he says, it's a horror show for China. It's far worse than Trump. So making a deal with Trump, when you read what's going on with Sanders, I think that the Chinese probably thought that it would be Biden. And Biden would be a reversal of all of this. That I don't think anyone thinks that Biden's going to get it now. So the Chinese made another tactical mistake. So let's get rid of that invincibility theory that is still being kicked around, particularly when they seem to be having a triage of 58 million people. A triage. And I think that in America, that would be triaging California. If California had an illness, it's inconceivable to us. It does seem to be the way of the Chinese, and they're getting away with it because everyone knows that they have a crisis. I deal with a major healthcare company that pledged to do everything they could to help. And Shanghai said, we're not interested in your pledge. At the same time, Shanghai said that there's no one offering help from America. Again, a black eye for the Chinese. I now know people who have directly offered to help, and the Chinese have directly said no, and then the Chinese say we're not willing to help. That's lying. And there's nothing worse than a state lying, as the state of the Soviet Union did for so long.
I want to talk about the coronavirus in just a minute, but I do want to quote you from your Real Money column this morning, because this quote really stood out to me. And you said, "But make no mistake about it, Sanders is so much more harsh on China that the Chinese could do well to call Facebook and put as many pro-Trump ads on Instagram as they can get away with."
Well, I mean, and I was speaking with people at Twitter last week. Twitter's vowed no political advertisement. Facebook hasn't. And I have told Facebook over again what they ought to do is sticker this is not vetted, so that you have some sense, like tobacco, this is not sanctioned by the government, but you can still buy it. And that the Chinese are really in a box now. I don't think they saw Sanders coming. They have a president in President Trump who doesn't really seem to be at the forefront of talking about the Uyghur million people in a concentration camp or Hong Kong when it comes to democracy, versus Sanders, who also on pollution is harsh. So you're really dealing with someone who would turn back our China relations to pre-Nixon. And I know that sounds incredible, but you just have to read what he says, because he has been the most harsh critic of even the most favored nation status of China. So he's been at the forefront of despising China before Trump even thought about China. It's very important for everybody to realize who you're dealing with.
I like what you just said about Facebook having maybe some kind of disclosure for political ads. You don't think that it's an issue?
I think Facebook's in flux. I think they're trying to figure it out themselves. I think that their initial view is, listen, we're a common carrier. We have to accept anything. It's kind of the old Greyhound bus theory when you were at law school. I don't think that washes, because that presumes that you could take an ad from, I know you're not supposed to ever talk about Hitler, but you could take an ad from Goebbels, and that is something that I think is reprehensible. Their philosophy is reprehensible. But at the same time, it is what many, let's just say, it is with a tradition of America, which is total free speech. I remember this debate when I was in college, and we were trying to figure out, where does it end? Where does free speech end? And we never once thought that it didn't end. I think that there are strict constructions to the Constitution who think that free speech triumphs everything. Free speech does not. Free speech is, I'm not saying it's an unimportant amendment, but you can easily argue free speech is not allowed to. Obviously, we know you can't print troop ship tables during World War II, but I have always felt that you can't accede to racism, that racism is an accessory and a precursor to genocide, I believe, in the wrong hands. So no free speech for genocide. And that's been my view, and I've articulated that to Facebook, and I'm hoping that they come around. I don't want to say they're not going to do that, because they're way too in flux to say that they'll do anything. So my hope is that they'll come around, but I understand they're strict, and just like the NRA. When I was at law school, the Second Amendment meant that there were right for militias, not the right for people, and that changed. So a strict constructionist view of the First Amendment allows them to do what they want. So they're, I get that. I just hope that they choose to interpret the First Amendment in a way that allows them to think about what is fair and what's true and what's not.
Now, you've been doing a lot of work on the coronavirus,
Yes.
and do you think that it could have an impact on the market since we haven't gotten any kind of...
I think it's been having, Catherine.
It has, but
Catherine,
what about
very
going
serious,
forward?
Very serious. Yeah, no, I think it's the most important thing out there. I think everything's viewed through the prism, as I said, through my game plan on Mad Money. It's very hard to, with the exception of, say, a Taubman bidding, for another mall, which is really incredible. It's Simon bidding for Taubman. I feel like that you have to put everything through the prism of China, and that's why I've gone back and favored the CPG stocks, and the one that I have said is the best is Clorox. They are working 24/7 for all their products that kill germs. Initially, WHO said that bleach didn't. Subsequently had to correct themselves. Bleach kills everything that's living. It's a remarkable killer, and it is going to kill this virus. And so when you open a 1,000-bed new hospital, my hat's off to China if they're able to do that. I hope it really is working. Every surface has to be wiped down, and the only thing that they're going to wipe it down with is Clorox, I believe. I carry Clorox wipes everywhere.
And I think that speaks to what doctors have been telling me, because I've been very curious about whether or not these masks are as effective as they could be, or what are the ways to prevent it.
They say that only the 3M mask works, the N.
They suggest
Right.
the 3M. They
Right.
also say that one of the best ways to do it is the same way as combating the flu. Wash your hands, don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. I try so hard. I bought surgical gloves. The new 3M mask should come today. I just want to be prepared. It just pays to be prepared. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. The worst that happens is you put it in the shelf after. And I'm not doing it to panic anyone. I'm doing it because it's nice to be prepared. In the same way that we have a lot of things at our home for, an alarm and prepare for that. I have fire equipment. I have a ladder that I can throw out the window, and now I'm going to have the mask. I mean, these are just things that you need to pay attention to.
Are we going to remain in a wait-and-see period until we get a cure?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Jim. So I just want to say, before we wrap, that it is such a pleasure to work with you, and I truly I wish you the happiest of birthdays.
Oh, thank you. It's already been pretty darn good. I think that as I get older, there are more people I'm friendly with because you meet people, and I don't think it's ever too late to have more friends, and it's really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. Guys, thanks for watching. We are now heading over to our Action Alerts Plus Daily Rundown show over on ActionAlertsPlus.com. The portfolio added some new Tyson, so we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
Thanks for joining. I'm Catherine Ross, and we'll see you tomorrow.